Hawks are investigating the VBS scandal. It follows the release of that report on how almost 2 billion rand was looted from the bank. EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu's brother Brian, the vendor King and some ANC officials, they're all included in this damning report. Now, our reporter Erin Bates is at the Hawks headquarters for us in Silverton in Pretoria. Erin, of course, our first question to you is how far the Hawks investigation into VBS is, given that there is this very detailed report that was released just yesterday.
Yes, Michelle, well, we know from engagements with the Hawks already that there were 6 dockets around about that relate to VBS Mutual Bank. We're going to find out if those have been consolidated and where exactly investigations are, as you've asked. I'm joined by the spokesperson for the Hawks, Brigadier Hangwane Mulaudzi. Brigadier, just to start off with that question, where are we at in investigations?
Well, we started with the investigations in June of this year. You will recall that, as you rightfully say, we had about 6 dockets that were opened in different areas of the country, but mostly in Limpopo. So what we have decided is to consolidate all those dockets into one. All the dockets now have been brought to head office. The complainants thereof have already been informed that we are going to be consolidating all these dockets, but the main complainant in this matter is the Reserve Bank. So it means then that because it was mostly on hearsay information, we will be able now to work closely now with the Reserve Bank so that we can be able to move forward. It does not necessarily mean that we are casting away those dockets, but it means then that we have the main person now who will be dealing with directly in terms of this issue.
You say the Reserve Bank is the main complainant. Who is the main respondent then in this now consolidated single case?
Well, look, I think we are still at a stage where we'll be able to say, let's give this investigation in space where we can be able to know exactly what is happening. What is critical for us now is for us to make sure that whatever information that is there, we are able to work on it. We have already made the representations to the NPA where they've given us 5 prosecutors. So we also have a team that comes from different entities within the DPCI, your serious corruption and your serious economic offences. There are other entities within the DPCI that are going to form part and parcel of the investigations, but these are the main people, 13 members that are going to be investigating this case. So it means then that the work has already been done but we will need to move with speed in terms of making sure that what came out of the report as well must be achieved as soon as possible.
So you spoke earlier about hearsay. There's a lot of forensic analysis that's gone into the financials, for example, that's referred to in the report. And I understand you have the appendices, which is all of the interview transcripts, the actual forensic accounting, and so on. Are we beyond hearsay now? It seems a pretty strong case reading the report and the allegations it makes about wide-scale fraud.
Of course, there's no doubt about that. But you must also take into cognizance that with that report, we cannot take that report directly to a magistrate or a judge. So it forms part and parcel of a guide as part of our probe. But we have our own independent investigation that we are doing, and that will also inform us as to whether we need to go further than the report has gone. So surely with the investigations we're still going to uncover a lot, but at the same time we need to just to caution the public out there that because of this report, that does not necessarily mean that things are done. We still have to do our own probe as well.
You mentioned the middle of the year and these dockets being opened round about then. So all 6 dockets opened around the middle of the year. The bank was put into curatorship on the 11th of March.
Yes, unfortunately they came through that time. And they came in droves, so we had to make sure that we get people who would be able to deal with those things. It came, some of them, they know that it's drip and drops, but it's mostly the same information that was contained in those dockets. Hence, we have now consolidated into one. But mostly the Reserve Bank is the main complainant.
Thank you, Brigadier. What were you doing between the middle of the year and the release of that explosive report this week? What was the team up to?
Well, there was a lot of things that we managed to achieve. You will recall about, I think, a month ago, we were in Parliament. We were invited by the Portfolio Committee of Police to come and give a comprehensive report on all the cases that were...
But this specific case, and not talking in Parliament, on the ground, your boots on the ground.
No. I'm just giving you a background. Yes. So with the VBS, we also gave a report to say this case is being investigated. One, already we have people that we are eyeing. Two, there are entities that we are eyeing. But because the matter is still being investigated, we can't give that information. So it shows that there was something that has been done. Now it's just an enhancement of the team to make sure that we work fast in terms of making sure that we finalize this case as soon as possible.
Talking about working fast, I understand you have a meeting with the NPA next week. There were 2 meetings, I understand, this week already. What's the urgency and what do you need to do next? What's the most pressing thing for you guys working together?
Well, of course, there are other areas that we have to look at. Your AFU must come in, from our side, there might be a case plan that needs to be done now because of the report. So we need to look at different strategies, different investigation methodologies that can be implemented. So that is part and parcel of the ongoing consultation that we have with the MPA. It's not something that is new. It always happened. But I think with this case, because it involves, the vulnerable people of this country, then it needs us to show that we are serious about this case.
Yes, Brigadier, I think that's a good point to go to next. My colleague Zikona Chona is in Limpopo today. She's meeting with VBS clients, people who've queued up outside VBS, women who are in their 80s, who've slept on the road waiting to get to the bank and get their money. With that in mind, I just want to know, what urgency do you have? What are you actually doing in terms of taking action? When you say investigations, people might imagine people sitting in offices reading documents. What tangible, physical action are the Hawks taking on this issue, which affects so many rural people in Limpopo who are VBS mutual bank clients?
Well, of course, one of the things that we're aiming for is to make sure that those are responsible are arrested.
When are those arrests going to happen?
I mean, it depends on the investigations. That is why we're saying we have a big team that has now been formulated. So it means then that action will be taken very soon. But we need to make sure that we follow the due processes. We can't go and rush things, and at the end of the day, the case is thrown out of court. So we need to make sure that we have the tangible evidence and take into cognizance the people who are suffering, so that they can be able to know and see that something is being done. I spoke about the AFU. The AFU, it's a part and parcel of the MPA. I have been told that they're already on the ground as well, trying to make sure that they can be able, taking from the report itself. So work is being done as soon as possible. But unfortunately, with the criminal case, we need to make sure that we get all the evidence, and make sure that all the evidence is credible. Then once it's done, surely we will make sure that the people that are responsible are arrested.
Thank you, Brigadier. So you're saying you want to dot your I's and cross your T's. My last question then to you. You say arrests will happen soon. Can you give us a window, a time period, an estimate?
Well, I don't want to give out, expectations, wrong expectations. But what is critical is that we need to work fast and make sure that we arrest those people.
Thank you. Brigadier Hangwane Mulaudzi there from the Hawks. Michelle, we're in the Hawks precinct in Silverton. It's quite a remarkable space, grills on the doors, high security here, and you can understand why. And the Brigadier there saying work is happening and people are moving swiftly to try and secure those assets and get closer to actually making arrests on this case.
Erin, I don't know if you had a chance to speak to the Brigadier, perhaps off camera, around the issue of state capture and how far the Hawks are in terms of that very important investigation.
I haven't, but he's still obligingly standing right next to me. My colleague Michelle Craig, very keen to know where things are on the state capture inquiry. I know we did brief you about speaking on VBS only, but since she's asked, I think it's only fair that I put it to you. Where are things at on your work around state capture prosecution?
Well, state capture as well it's one of those high-profile cases that we're dealing with. We have moved swiftly with those cases. I think you have seen with the other arrests that we have made, but there's still a lot of work that we're still doing. It's not only only one or two entities that we're dealing with. So it's a lot of entities that we're doing. So, of course, we would want to see, for myself as well, arrests being made. But there's a lot that will come out. Let's not rush. We will be able to give you. Something is happening next week that maybe we can be able to communicate with you guys.
Okay.
But
are we talking middle of the week, end of the week? Give us a hint here.
No, we'll tell you in due course. I think we still have to consult with the national head to see if this information would be credible enough for us to share with the media. But I think it's important. But yes, a lot of things that have been done. The NPA is assisting as well. So yes, work is being done. Yeah.
And are you engaging with the Zondo inquiry? Any sort of engagements back and forth, perhaps over those Gupta leaks hard drives? Where do things stand?
Well, there's a meeting as well next week with the team. The relationship between ourselves and the Zondo Commission is superb. So if there's anything that they require from us, we provide it to them, and vice versa. So the relationship, I can say, it's up there. So that's why we're saying there's no, there are no problems that we're experiencing with that.
Great. I think, Michelle, he's answered your question there. Thank you, Brigadier. We just threw that in at the end. Interesting hearing that we may well have some kind of information from the Hawks next week on state capture. No sense on when in the week, and just dangling that carrot there for us. We're going to have to be patient and see, in fact, if it does happen.
Well, Erin, I just wish that the Hawks would communicate these things a lot better, because to the public it does appear that very little is being done in terms of progress with state capture. We had no idea that the Hawks had such a great relationship with the Zondo Commission, the State Commission, the State Capture. Superb, in fact. It would have been great to know that. I'm sure the public would be happy to hear that there is some progress, and we are told we'll hear more details on that story sometime next week. My colleague Erin Bates, live to us there from the Hawks headquarters in Silverton in Pretoria.